back for round number 3. In this one, I'm going to be looking back at past holiday TV episodes. And I think I'll start with one that really was a big influence in my creativity. It was a Disney Channel show called I Didn't Do It. And the reason that that had a big influence on me is because it came out when I was in high school. First year of high school, I was 15. And at that time, I had some things that were going on. I won't get into that. But I would watch that show, and it was really funny. And it just made me laugh and kept me happy. And they even did a Christmas episode. And in it, Logan was kind of tired of Lindy giving him a hard time constantly. And he makes a wish, I wish you were never my sister. And he wakes up, and he's an only child. He's actually a twin on the show, but in this alternate reality, he's an only child, and all of their friends have changed very, very drastically. Jasmine is now in with the bad kids. Garrett has a very interesting lifestyle, and Delia just likes to fit in with everyone. And Logan realizes that he needs Lindy. And he sees that Lindy still exists, but is not a member of his family. So Logan learns that in order for the wish to be redone, the event that led up to the wish has to be redone. And what happened when the wish happened is that Lindy held a tree trimming party and had Jasmine, Garrett, and Delia over, and of course, being her twin, Logan was there as well. So Logan decided to hold a party and had everyone over, and tried to get into the same argument that he got into with Lindy in the first place, and that ends up happening, and everything is now back to normal. And the funny part of this episode is that right toward the very end, Lindy's doing a version of Silent Night, and Logan's singing along, kind of poorly, and she says, "Oh, I wish I never had to hear your voice again," and gets her wish, and doesn't really do anything to alternate that. She's like, "Oh, this is good. I like this." So obviously that was a take on It's a Wonderful Life. I've seen a lot of TV shows do this. iCarly did it once in an episode where Spencer had accidentally set their Christmas tree on fire. Like always, what do you expect from Spencer? And Carly made a wish that Spencer was born normal. And so Spencer becomes a lawyer and speaks a little bit more seriously than he usually does. And in addition to that, Neville becomes Carly's boyfriend. Freddie starts dating a girl that is kind of rude. And Sam winds up in jail. And Spencer gets engaged to Freddie's mom. Ouch. That's a tough one. They also did this on Even Stevens, although in that episode they celebrated Hanukkah, and in that, Louis tried to sneak a peek at their Hanukkah presents and successfully found them and brought them upstairs to his room, and while trying to hide them, he accidentally made them fall out of the window, leading him to be grounded for all of Hanukkah. I remember the line, "Is this what's going to happen when my cousins come over here to celebrate Christmas?" Well, that depends. Will they be bringing presents? So Louis's Bubby Rose, I still remember, "I'm your Bubby Rose. My booby what?" Louis's Bubby Rose takes him on a little journey to an altered life of that family without him. And instead of Louis, they have a son who is somewhat a perfectionist and doesn't really like any distractions at all, wants to make sure that he stays focused on everything, and kind of controls them, basically. And he's awoken from this dream, and he's ungrounded for Hanukkah. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air did something like that once, although it wasn't in a Christmas episode. They did do a few Christmas episodes, but there was one episode where they did do a take on It's a Wonderful Life, somewhat. And in it, Carlton was kind of upset over the fact that he couldn't get into Princeton, because when Will did his Princeton interview, he just was himself, and of course Will's very much from the streets. Carlton is, again, a perfectionist. And so Carlton tried to be more like Will, and that didn't get him anywhere. And so he's watching It's a Wonderful Life, and on the line, "I wish I'd never been born," Carlton's like, "Me and you both." And his guardian angel, who, believe it or not, is Tom Jones, and we've all seen Carlton dance to Tom Jones, so that must have been a dream come true for him. Tom Jones takes Carlton on a little journey to an altered reality, and then Carlton's like, "Wow, everyone's just focused on happiness, but no one's making money." interesting little take on It's a Wonderful Life. There were a few other Christmas episodes of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. One that I really like starts with they're going on a ski trip to Utah, and Carlton's all getting ready, and he starts singing, "Deck the slopes with babes in tight pants, fa la 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 la. Carlton's gonna get some romance, fa la 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 la." And Will's overhearing him and goes, "No, you're not, 'cause you're too ugly, fa la 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 la. They'll all be in my room, cute and snuggly, ha 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 ha." And while they're up in the mountains, a lot of things happen kind of unexpectedly. It's with the whole extended Smith family. Lester gets injured skiing, and they all get robbed. Somebody comes to their lodge hoping to get shelter, and then says, "This is a stick-up," and in the next scene they're all tied up, and everything's robbed, everything. And throughout that episode, Will's Aunt Janice was starting to feel sick, and she thought maybe she was pregnant, but didn't take a pregnancy test. And she took one before they got robbed, but it's unexplained what happened until the very end when a cop shows up and he says, "We got the guy who robbed you. Unfortunately, everything is now gone. Except one thing. Somebody in this room is pregnant." I remember one episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Will wanted to give Ashley a real Christmas because there's no snow in California, so there's not a lot of Christmas activities that Will would be used to, so he literally got their entire house, inside and outside, decorated. And the cool thing about this is that this episode features a nice cameo from past Nostalgia Talk guest Justin Shankaro, and Justin actually talked about that when he came on here. If you want to check that one out, by all means, it's online. He talked a little bit about being on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was really cool to see him on there. I remember on an episode of Jessie, the Disney Channel show Jessie, they did a Christmas episode where the kids' parents were trying to come home for Christmas. And I remember their butler, Bertram, trying to go on vacation. He ended up not going on vacation because of snow, but he comes into the room going, "I'm off to Cabo in vacation, fa la 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 la, no more kids in aggravation, ha 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 ha." Kind of similar to Will's song to Carlton. Some of my favorite of the Disney Channel Christmas episodes are crossovers, and Jessie did a few Christmas crossovers. There's one with Austin and Ally. Well, that wasn't exactly Christmas, it was more New Year's, and Austin wanted to play Times Square on New Year's Eve, and Jessie and Emma went to go see him, and they got to hang out for a bit. One of my favorite lines in that one is where the kids bring Bertram over, and Bertram's like, "They told me 98 Degrees was performing, but it's 9.8 degrees. It's actually really cold right now here, and I don't mind listening to the 98 Degrees Christmas album in 9.8 degree weather. Anyway, on with the ramble. So, I remember there was a Christmas episode of Austin and Ally in which there was an action figure of Austin that everyone wanted, and they accidentally got the voice boxes mixed up with another toy, a toy that I think is meant to be a baby because it went, "Wham, Mommy, change me!" And they had to stop Austin from giving that toy to any of the kids because knowing what would happen. They did an episode that was kind of like that of Lab Rats, which was a Disney XD series, in which Adam, Bree, and Chase, their bionics were finally revealed to the world, and so they made toys, action figures, of them to give to kids. And they put in real bionics, but they thought that maybe they were too dangerous to play with. Going back to Jessie, I remember they did a Good Luck Charlie and Jessie Christmas special in which they mixed the two together, and I remember Teddy, this was toward the end of the series, and Teddy was trying to get into college, and she needed to go to NYU on Christmas Eve, so she went with PJ, and they tried to get home to Denver, but there was a big blizzard, so they had to spend Christmas in New York. And luckily, Teddy met Jessie and Zuri on the subway. And so Teddy asked the Rosses, "Can we stay?" And that's what they ended up doing while Jessie and Bertram were planning a Christmas scavenger hunt. But unfortunately, due to a mishap, they were all knocked out, and had no memory of anything that happened the night before. And it's not even explained what happened the night before. They were just trying to figure out what happened to our presents. Why are they not here? I remember when they were told that Jessie had planned a Christmas scavenger hunt for them, Zuri was really, really pissed off, and she's like, all I know is I have no presents, so I need something to rip open. Zuri did not play, I gotta tell you. I remember a really good episode of the Jessie spin-off series, which was called Bunk'd, which is still going, actually. And there was an episode in which, I don't remember much of it, I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember the campers and some of the counselors went over to this guy's house, and Jorge made the discovery that the man living in the house was Santa Claus, and they were like, no, that's not true. This is a show that's set at a summer camp in Maine, and eventually they find out it's him. It's Santa Claus, because he accidentally reveals it, and he's like, okay, I used to be Santa Claus a long time ago, but now everyone always does their shopping online, so there's no need for me anymore. And so everyone decides to pitch in and give something in return. They decide to give Santa presents. One of my favorite Disney Channel episodes that revolves around Christmas was from That's So Raven. I was a That's So Raven kid. And I remember in it, Raven had a vision about what her presents are. And she decided to skip out on caroling with her family in order to open it. And that's what she does. I think it was like a necklace, I think so. And she ends up wearing it to school. Big mistake. It ends up getting destroyed, so she, Chelsea, and Eddie decide to, well, Raven decides for them, I'll say, to skip school and go to the mall in order to buy a new necklace. Unfortunately, their teacher kind of beat them to the mall. Their teacher, Mr. Petrocelli, explained that he was going to be absent the next day and was going to have a substitute in his place. And while they're at the mall, Chelsea says, you know what, let's get a picture with Santa. And while they're in line, they hear Santa's neck crack, and they're like, it's Mr. Petrocelli. Because for anyone not aware, Mr. Petrocelli has a habit of cracking his neck. Like, I remember one episode of Raven that was not Christmas-related, where somebody stole Eddie's locker, and he's like, this is coming out of my reputation. And Mr. Petrocelli goes by, Thomas, you don't have a reputation! And obviously by that sound effect, cracks his neck. So Mr. Petrocelli, who is played by Ernie Sabella, who voiced Pumbaa in The Lion King, he's waving to everyone going, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And so Chelsea, Eddie, and Raven disguise their voices and walk by going, oh, thank you, Santa. And Eddie says, Merry Christmas, Mr. Petrocelli. And I remember in an episode, Mr. Petrocelli could tell from some kind, what was he, a robot or something? But there was like this robotic thing where he could tell who was unprepared to answer a question, and he would call on them right away. Like it would be like, okay, gum chewer, unprepared, not paying attention, fidgeting. So Mr. Petrocelli can tell that they're cutting class and chases after them. And when they get home, Corey is going to have his picture taken with Santa, and Raven gets invited to the mall by her parents. And at first she says no because she knows that Mr. Petrocelli is going to be there, and that might make her a little anxious. But then she has a vision of Mr. Petrocelli seeing a photograph of Raven, Chelsea, and Eddie behind him while he's playing Santa. So Raven goes with them, puts on a Santa suit while Corey and everyone else is waiting in line, and looks at pictures of the kids that got their photo with Santa, and she's like, let me just check the naughty and nice list. Immediately gets the photo of her, Chelsea, and Eddie with Santa. It's like, well, these children have definitely been naughty. Takes off, and then Santa, and the reason I say that is because there's a bit of a twist here, approaches Raven and says, well, what have we here? And then Raven explains what happened. And Santa says, okay, I'm gonna let you go. And she's like, why? But I ruined Christmas. And he's like, why? They don't know what you've done. And Santa reveals that he knows that Raven is psychic. And she's like, wait, Mr. Petrocelli, how'd you know I was psychic? Santa says, because I'm not Mr. Petrocelli. That guy over there, points over to Mr. Petrocelli, that's Mr. Petrocelli. And cracks his neck. Mr. Petrocelli cracks his neck. And Raven's like, but wait, what are you... So I guess it's the real Santa. And he says, Raven, you have the gift of seeing the future, and now I'm giving you the gift of changing the past. So Raven goes back in time and fixes her damage. She decides to go caroling with her family instead of opening her present. One of the really, really, really big ones for me that helped make me realize I wanted to get into filmmaking was a Nickelodeon holiday special from when I was about 16. Because by that time, I was watching Belle and the Bulldogs, a couple of these shows that I mentioned before. I didn't do it, Lab Rats, a lot of other ones. And a lot of the Nickelodeon and Disney live action shows really spoke to me because they were about teenagers. I was a teenager, so I'd watch them and I'd be like, oh my god, I can totally relate to that. And Nickelodeon did this holiday special with all of the Nickelodeon casts from the Thundermans, Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn, Belle and the Bulldogs, School of Rock, what else, 100 Things to Do Before High School. And I remember watching it, and it was full of so many funny skits. One that I really get a kick out of is, it was called the Snowflake Song, and it was sung by a couple of guys from 100 Things to Do Before High School. Owen Joyner was one of them. Addison Rique, I hope I said that right, Addison Rique from the Thundermans, and Rio Mangini from Belle and the Bulldogs. And all of them but Owen Joyner are dressed as snowflakes. Owen Joyner's dressed as an apple, and the song starts off, every snowflake is unique, and Rio Mangini sees Owen Joyner as an apple, and it's like, hey, what are you supposed to be? Well, I'm a snowflake, but you don't look like us, but every snowflake is unique. I remember there was one line in the song, we stay on eyelashes, and Owen Joyner sings, have leaves on a stem, Addison, we fall on your cheeks, Owen, I look just like them. Owen, you're not really fooling anyone, just gonna say, you're not really fooling anyone. Nicky, Ricky, Dicky, and Dawn, they did a really funny Christmas episode that kind of goes along the lines of what I was talking about with That's So Raven, where the quads try to, it's Christmas vacation for them, so they try to snoop for their presents, and what they really, really want is a Max box, which I guess is a video game system, and as they're snooping, they discover that they don't open any of the presents, but they can tell no Max box, and then they discover Santa, who's actually their dad, who's doing Santa at their sporting goods store, and his wife, who's of course the quad's mom, is doing Mrs. Claus. And as punishment for snooping, they make the quads work as elves in the store, which proves to be a little bit chaotic because they're watching children. And then in the midst of all of that, even the dad, Tom, that was his name, Tom, while he's playing Santa, he gets a little bit exhausted from the kids, and Anne, who's doing Mrs. Claus, she's exhausted from making Christmas cookies, and Tom says, oh, you're just following a recipe. And she's like, no, you're doing more than following a recipe. So they switch positions. Anne plays the role of Santa at the mall, and Tom bakes the cookies, which proves to be even more difficult. They've done some pretty good Christmas episodes of Full House also. One I really, really like is where Michelle gets Danny a really, really goofy gift. It's a tie/cup holder, and Becky gets the same thing for Joey, and everyone's like, oh, that is a horrible present. I see why they call them a gag gift. So Michelle tries to burn the one that she got for her dad, and Uncle Jesse's like, Michelle, what are you doing? And she said, burning this. And he's like, why? She said, because it's the worst thing you've ever seen. He's like, I wouldn't say that. Then unwraps the present and is like, I did say that. So they go to the store in which Michelle bought the tie, and they want to exchange it for something else. But the owner of the store, who's played by Mickey Rooney, he's very, very grumpy with them. It's like, I want to return this. Well, do you have a receipt? No. Bye-bye. No, but you recognize her. You know, this costs $5. Why don't we get this thing, which is also $5? And Mickey Rooney locks them in the store and says, I triggered the silent alarm. You guys are going to spend Christmas in jail. So they're trying to get out, and then finally Mickey Rooney says, okay, get out. Get out. And Michelle really feels for Mickey Rooney's character, whose name is Mr. Drakehorn, and she says, why aren't you spending Christmas with your family? And he's like, because my family moved up to Oregon, took my grandchildren, I haven't seen them in a long time. Forget them. And they really, really start to feel for Mr. Drakehorn and invite him over for Christmas dinner at their house. And he says, well, just a minute. There's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to do it. Now, the B-plot of this episode is that in most Christmas episodes of Full House, Joey's always playing Santa. And DJ and Stephanie are helping Joey get into his Santa suit, and it's not as easy as it seems. And Nicky and Alex see that and become kind of frightened that Santa's hurting them, because they've basically fallen on each other trying to get the costume on. So they become really frightened of Santa, which everyone kind of notices. Danny tries to help, Becky tries to help. Danny says to them, so, you guys getting excited about Santa coming? And they're like, Santa's coming here? And he says, yeah. And they're like, but we're gonna lock the door, right? And he's like, oh no, he's gonna come down the chimney. And they're a little frightened by that still. Danny's not aware of the fact that the boys are scared of Santa. And Danny says, oh, he sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, you guys better be good, Santa's coming tonight. And they ran out frightened. And Becky explains the kids are terrified beyond words of Santa. And DJ and Stephanie try to help out, as does Joey. Joey comes in dressed as the Christmas bunny. Eventually, Uncle Jesse and Michelle come back, and they're with Mr. Dreghorn, who's dressed as Santa, and gives gifts to everyone. And Uncle Jesse has a special gift for Mr. Dreghorn, a portable phone. And he says, you know what to do with it. And I'm sure everyone else knows what he wants him to do with it, too. Mickey Rooney has actually done Santa a few times. He did in the Rankin Bass special, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and a follow-up, The Year Without a Santa Claus, which I actually just recently watched, and it's pretty good. Lots of good music in there, too. There was another Full House Christmas episode in which, again, Joey was dressed as Santa, but this one was kind of funny because Steve, which is DJ's boyfriend for a period of time on the series, gets accepted into college. The show is set in San Francisco on the west coast of the US, and Steve's acceptance into college was at Daytona Beach University in Florida. And Steve gets DJ a sweater from that university, and she's a little bit upset by that. And so they break up after an argument. But DJ feels really, really sad about it, and says to Kimmy, I wish I could just talk to Steve, but he won't answer the phone. So there's a Santa Claus in the room, which everyone thinks is Joey. And I did too when I saw this for the first time, because, in most Full House Christmas episodes, Joey seems to be the one taking a role. And then another Santa comes to the door. It's Danny's girlfriend at the time, Vicky, who was constantly going away on and off from Chicago to San Francisco to do news. And she was doing news in Sweden, and unexpectedly came back to San Francisco to spend Christmas with Danny and the family. And then Joey comes in as Santa, imitating Daffy Duck. Ho, 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 all you wonderful San Franciscans! And sees that there's other Santa Clauses in the house. And is like, well, looks like there's an imposter among us. And DJ's like, wait, Joey, if you're doing Santa, and if that's Vicky, then who are you? It's Steve. And they get back together. Their relationship didn't last the whole series. I mean, in the latest Fuller House series on Netflix, they did end up getting married, which was nice. You know, brought back a lot of nostalgia for Full House fans. Since I brought up Daffy Duck, I really think I should talk about Bah Humduck, which is a Looney Tunes Christmas special that was a take on A Christmas Carol. And this one was set, like, in current times. You know, a lot of adaptations of A Christmas Carol are set in the period of time that it was written in. This one was set in current times. Daffy Duck was running this superstore that was like a Target, Costco, Walmart type thing. It was actually pretty cool. And he only cared about money. Who needs the white Christmas when he can have a green one instead? And Porky Pig was his Bob Cratchit type assistant manager. Bugs Bunny was doing this Fred Scrooge kind of guy. I know rabbits are normally associated with Easter, but me, I'm all about the winter holiday. There's one moment in this where Daffy's calling for Porky, and he's like, Mr. Assistant Manager, your boss wants to see your butt this instant! And Porky's wearing underwear that says, Kiss me, it's Christmas. Be careful what you wish for. There's one moment in this where Daffy and Porky have fallen, and Daffy's kind of dizzy, sees Porky there, and is like, do I know you? Yes, sir. I'm your assistant manager. Do I like you? You don't really like anyone, sir. I remember you now, and you're right, I don't like you. So Bugs warns Daffy that he could get visited by the ghosts of Christmas. I love how he's totally aware of it. And Daffy's visited by his business idol, who's played by Sylvester, and explains, you're going to get visited by 3 more ghosts, each more terrifying than the last. And the ghost of Christmas past, there were 2. It was Granny and Tweety, a septuagenarian and a sparrow. The ghost of Christmas present was Yosemite Sam. Ghost of Christmas future was a Tasmanian devil. And one of my favorite parts of this actually came from the Ghost of Christmas present. It's where Yosemite Sam's leading Daffy to what's going on right now, and he tries to drag him through a window, which doesn't work, and Daffy's like, just so you know, I'm not capable of going through solid objects. That's because you're not trying hard enough. Grab onto my robe, just don't let go. And Daffy very successfully is able to go through the solid window, but Yosemite Sam goes down a little bit too hard, and the robe rips. And for a few seconds, Daffy's just gliding in thin air, and he goes, this is gonna hurt. The other significant part of this special is Porky Pig wants to get his daughter a doll, but Daffy tripled the price on it, so Porky can't afford it. And Porky really, really wants to get it for her. And Daffy's like, what is it with you and your daughter? You act like you're her father or something. But what am I going to tell my little Priscilla? Tell her, bah, Humduck! I think I'll close out with this one. I think this one's a nice one to close out this talk with. One of my favorite Disney shows that was animated when I was a kid was called Disney's House of Mouse. And in it, I don't know if some of you would remember, but I absolutely loved that show when I was younger and always wanted to literally go there. What did I know? I was in single digits. So they did a Christmas home video that was called Snowed In at the House of Mouse. And in that one, they're all kind of trapped in the House of Mouse, obviously. So they make the best out of it, and Donald is not feeling the Christmas spirit at all. So they try to get him in the Christmas spirit by showing Christmas cartoons with all the Disney characters in it, and all the Disney characters talking about what they want for Christmas. I remember Goofy, all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. Gosh, I already got them. And eventually, Mickey asks Donald, would you like to put the star on the tree? And that really gives Donald the Christmas spirit. And it ends with a very nice song that makes this the best Christmas of all. It's a very, very nice little song to end it with. My friends and I, when we were younger, the thing that we got a kick out of this was they did a version of the Nutcracker with Minnie Mouse playing the main character, and Mickey, of course, was a Nutcracker. And Ludwig von Drake was the one who was selling the Nutcracker to Minnie. And John Cleese was narrating, and Ludwig von Drake is like, how am I supposed to show her that doll when you keep talking about it? Just ignore me and give her the doll! So Mickey, as the Nutcracker, before it becomes an animate object, starts dancing. And Ludwig von Drake's like, it's not supposed to dance! There must be something wrong with this. Takes off the Nutcracker's head, and Minnie's like, you broke it! And John Cleese goes, yeah, that's right. Just for that, I'm kicking you out of the story. And it's just like on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, whenever Jazz is thrown out of the house. Wide shot. Ah! That was the thing that my friends and I got a big kick out of when we were younger. So that's all I've got to say about Christmas TV episodes. I'm counting House of Mouse and Bah Humduck as Christmas episodes for this. I will see you next week for the final Nostalgia Talk Christmas bonus of the year. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully some of my favorites are some of your favorites. Let me know. Peace.